Hi everyone, welcome back to SwitchUp, and to that episode on a Sunday where we all sit down together, have a little peruse through the Eshop and decide what games we're going to add to our ever-growing backlog. Firstly, congratulations to the winner of the free game. From last week, I was obviously away, but the episode went ahead. Here's your name. If you'd like to enter, all you need to do is leave a normal comment. Now, you may have noticed that our website has been up and down over the last week. We've been having some problems behind the scenes with it. It was due to be back up on Wednesday, so apologies if you've not been able to check out on there. We are working on it as quickly as we can. Alright, what are the best games on sale? Well, let's find out. First up, we've got Axiom Verge 2, which is half price. And it's a Metroidvania that obviously came off the back of the first game, Axiom Verge, which had a really interesting storyline. Now, Axiom Verge 2, I've got to be honest, I don't think it lives up to the first game because it's just too overt with its storytelling. Now, I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, it's just a little bit too more on the nose in terms of some of the concepts it plays with. Now, with that said, it is still a decent game. It took me about 8 hours to finish it. It felt like it kind of ended quite abruptly, you know, when you're kind of waiting for something more to happen and it just finishes. But I do think actually in hindsight it was about the right length. It has some good boss fights, so I think that's the most memorable part of it for me. And the map design and some of the skills were quite clever as well. So yeah, it's a decent sales pickup for sure, but not one I'd be paying full price for. It's half price until August the 8th. Well, this is exciting. This episode is sponsored by Otherwar, which stealthily came out on the Nintendo Switch a few days ago and is a mashup of tower defense and bullet hell shooter. It also has a bit of bullet heaven in it if you've played things like Vampire Survivors, and you have to build and manage different fortifications to defend the gates of heaven against the hordes of hell while soaring over the battlefields as the defending angel. It's really important to think about where you're going to place your towers. It genuinely makes a difference to the gameplay, and it will also change where you place yourself. It's nice having that mixture, not just having to worry about your own character, but trying to strategize with the right towers for the job, but then also having good control. You're going to need it because the game is difficult. Now, this is a tough one, but also very fair, and it has previously been out on Steam. This one launches with a 30% discount, taking it down to a really reasonable price, as you can see on screen. As I say, it shadow dropped back on August the 2nd, a couple of days ago, and this sale goes on until August the 15th in the North American regions and all the way up to the 30th of August in Europe. A lovely little addition to the sales video, this one. I didn't know it was coming out, so it was very cool when the developer reached out to us and the publishers over at Untold Tales. So thanks to those guys for sponsoring. Check it out, links will be in the description and the top pinned comment. After that, we have Prince of Persia The Lost Crown, 40% off until August the 12th. Now, this is the cheapest it's ever been. Sorry, people like myself, it's not available in the EU or UK regions. This is America only, but it takes it down to $23.99. And if you missed our full review of it and the fact that the whole internet kind of blew up with the fact that this is a really very good Metroidvania, it is a really very good Metroidvania. It's a decent game, this. Very slick, well polished, runs at 60 frames per second on the Switch, but it also includes quite a few little quality of life things that we haven't seen used in a lot of Metroidvanias. I think one of the biggest issues, for me at least, is getting lost in these games. And this one uses a system that's optional that can help you navigate, and it also has a very cool idea, well I thought it was at least. You can basically take snapshots, so images of certain locations that will get pinned to your map. So if you find like a treasure chest or something, you can take a screenshot that will tie to your map and you'll be able to always look and see where that is. That's a great idea, isn't it? It's nice to see people still innovating. I was playing that Bow Path of the Teal Lotus again the other day, and yeah, I do like that game a lot, even with the difficulty spikes in there. So Prince of Persia The Lost Crown, that sale goes on until August the 12th. One of my favourite classic style RPGs is Kingdoms of Amalur. That's 60% off, that matches its cheapest, and it's down to £14.69, and that's in all regions. It is another that has a Play Asia physical, so if you're a physical collector, that might be one to consider, but it comes from one of the lead designers of Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Now, it's a massive game by default as well. I mean, it will take you about 50 to 100 hours if you want to max it out. But if you own it and you finished it, you might not have realised that there's actually a DLC on Switch, which is also 60% off at the moment, called Fatesworn. And it's a massive DLC, it's like bigger than most games, about 10 to 15 hours of extra content. Really good, I really like Kingdoms of Amalur, so yeah, one to check out. Now, I want to put in a bit of a controversial choice, and it's controversial because one element of it is just not good enough. And it's the Batman Arkham Trilogy, which in the US regions at the moment is half price. Now, yes, Arkham Knight on Switch is just rubbish, like, it's bad. And if the fact that they released the game, and well, initially they were like, look, you should be able to buy them separately, or we'll be releasing them separately, but then they didn't do that. So yeah, I mean, that's not great, is it? But then on the flip side of that, you've got Arkham Asylum, which is a brilliant game, and it runs well on Switch. And then you've got Arkham City. It is City, isn't it? And that also runs really well and is an excellent game. And those two together are worth the asking price, in my opinion. And look, I've seen some of you in the comments that are like, look, I managed to play through Arkham Knight on Switch from start to finish. And while it was not great, obviously the worst times being when you're riding around in the Batmobile, the rest of it was workable. And I will say some of the interior locations, they run at 30 and they look fine, but it is that exterior and when you're riding around where you'll see the majority of the issues. Still, all three games for this price, if you've not played them, they are very good, but it's just being aware of those issues, I guess. All of the Darksiders games are on sale. Now that's probably because we just had the announcement or the little surprise, I don't know, what would you say, reveal that we're getting a new Darksiders game on modern platforms. Hopefully by then Switch 2 will be one of those modern platforms. But right now it means that all of the Darksiders games are on a big sale. You've got Darksiders 1 through to 3. They're actually very different experiences. The first one's really polished, a little more linear, and they share many of the aspects of games like Zelda. Weirdly enough. The one that kind of branched away, in my opinion, was Darksiders. Well, they all do actually. Let's talk about them. Darksiders 2 took things in a more open world direction, and again, I guess felt even more like Zelda in the way it was designed, and it had dungeons and all sorts. But then Darksiders 3, they decided to go in the Souls direction, so it has that Soulsborne feel to it, and it's not a bad game, but the performance wasn't ideal at launch, and then they didn't patch it, so you're always going to have that slightly degraded performance. So yeah, obviously they're not all bundled together, but you can buy them individually at the moment. They're about 70% off, so yeah, very good prices. Darksiders 2, I think, would be my pick, honestly, of the bunch. It's £7.79. In terms of gameplay, I liked it the most, but the first game is the most polished and weirdly had like a performance mode in it as well, which none of the others did. We've got our first big sale on Biomutant, that's down 25% until August the 14th. I've actually revisited this in our all patched up episode. It's up to version, I think it's 1.0.3. It looks much better than it did at launch. It runs better than it did. It's still clearly the Switch version, but actually it's not too bad. Now the game itself is an open world action adventure with some RPG elements that has quite a bit of Euro jank to it. And what I mean by that is there are some aspects to it that just feel a bit janky because of the size of the dev team. And there was so much expectation when it came out. I don't think it lives up to that. I would say go check out my review though, because there's still a lot to like here, but I would not be paying full price for it. It combines ranged combat, melee, an open world where you can work for different factions and kind of get those on your side. And as I say, some very cool ideas and some jank. Now, £26.24, it's still one of the more expensive sales we've got this week, but if you've been keeping your eye out for it and maybe wanted to know if it had been patched, then yeah, there's your information. The sale for that one goes on until August the 14th. One of the most underrated Darksiders games has to be Darksiders Genesis. This is 70% off. That's the cheapest it's been. I think it takes it down to about $11.99 or your regional equivalent, as you can see there. And this was an isometric view experience that resembled that kind of action RPG element that you'd find in Diablo, or at least action adventure. But it's a fun game and it deserved more attention when it came out. And it also has co-op as well on one Nintendo Switch or online if you've got a friend. It doesn't have 4-player co-op, Obviously, if you've come from Diablo, you might expect that, but it's not here. But it's still a very fun time. It takes about 15 to 20 hours to work through it. I actually think I'll probably do this one in co-op. But again, it does have a PlayAsia physical if you want to go that route. And you could save 5% using our code. So that's Darksider's Genesis. That goes on until August the 14th. Titan Quest. This was one of my favourite games. Like, I used to be a big PC nerd when I was a kid. And look, this is not a knock against PC nerds. I was one. But Titan Quest was one of the games that took a lot to get running back in the day, and I was like, oh, it's so good. It's like a classic RPG, top-down, but it had real-time action. So when I saw it on Switch, I was like, that's amazing. It had so many bugs when it launched, which was a shame. But the weird thing was, there was this chatter about there being a DLC that was going to come out for it, and it would have been literal decades since the game released. And it did. The Ragnarok DLC came out, and it added in a whole new campaign, and it was quality. Now, although I'm obviously talking about the price here of Titan Quest, which is 70% off in the EU regions, sorry America, the DLC is on sale as well. So if you picked up the original game and didn't know that DLC had come out, grab that. It's only like £7, something like that. Very cool. The hidden gem of the week then, and I'm really excited to talk about this because I'm going to tell you about something. I've wanted to make a game for a long time. Like, I'm sure all of us have, right? You've got these game ideas in your head. My game idea is nothing special. It's nothing amazing. I want to create a point-and-click adventure set in space, obviously reminding me of my favourite point-and-clicks, things like Space Quest back in the day. And it, featuring a janitor, because why not? And I've started work in the engine, the AGS engine, the Adventure Game Studio engine, which is completely free, by the way. But learning it's like difficult. It's like my head is hurting from trying to learn this engine. But one day you might be playing my game, which would be cool. But a game that is a lot like it in terms of where it was made in the AGS engine is Unavowed. So it gives me a lot of hope. Now, I have to say, Wadjet Eye Studios that make these, they're just pro. They're so good at making them. They're such good classic feeling adventure point and clicks. But Unavowed is 65% off at the moment. It's down to £4.72. And it's great. It's got a very cool supernatural story. There's like almost a band of, I guess, pseudo-heroes. And the world there has discovered that magic exists. And yeah, really good for this price. They're very good at storytelling. There's voice acting in them. I want to get voice acting in there, but I don't think I couldn't afford to pay anyone. So if any of you have got good voices, let me know, and you can voice a character in my game. That'd be cool. Actually, why don't we just get the subscribers just to be the voices of the game? In fact, you could be the characters of the game. That would be a cool giveaway, wouldn't it? It's not a giveaway really, it's just an idea. Yeah, if any of you, like I say, good voices, if you've got good names, just we can deck the cast out with SwitchUp subscribers. Nice. Who wants to be the captain? If someone's just tuned in, they're like, what on earth is this video about? But yeah, Unavowed, 65% off until August the 12th. That is a absolute bargain. The bundle of the week, the new segment where I look at one ridiculously good value bundle, goes to the Borderlands bundle, the Pandora's Box, which according to my daughter who does the prices on these videos, I got completely wrong and called it the Paradox Box or something. So sorry about that, daughter. But it's 75% off. It's down to £30.99 or your regional equivalent, and its base price is $150. And the reason for that is it includes Borderlands 1, 2, 3, the pre-sequel, Tales from the Borderlands. That's a really nice addition, isn't it? Because obviously it's a slight spin-off in the series. And also the new Tales from the Borderlands. This is a cracking bundle for just over 30 quid. If you don't own those, I don't know what to say really. Own them. Own them all. Yes, please. All right, then we go on to our Savaloy selection. The games that are very cheap. I know some of you don't like sausage. Sorry, that's a childish thing to laugh at. I know some of you do not like Savaloys. You often tell me that it's a junk food I should not be enjoying, but I do. Some of you have your Fedkoeks from South Africa. You've got there's that one in Germany that I can never, you got your strudel, or your other regional equivalent dishes that are cheap and cheerful. They're those little guilty pleasures. And now we have a list of 6 games that fall into that category. And these are mad prices. You're looking at 80 and 90% off, easy pickups. You stood waiting to buy your shopping and you're looking at those shelves next to you and it's all those cheap things that you don't need, but for some weird reason, suddenly they're the most appealing things in the world. First up, we've got Windbound. 90% off, down to £1.59 here in the UK for a great little survival adventure where you have to build your boat, and it's modular. You can add different sails to it. You can end up with this right monstrosity. But it's actually the real star of the show in this game is the sailing mechanics. They're really cool. I enjoyed them a lot. You have to like tack into the wind. Is that correct terminology? I don't know. The actual game itself is quite good. There's a bit of crafting in there. There's a kind of story. It's a bit like, you know, not the best, but for £1, yes please. Hunt down at 80% off in the American regions, down to $3.99. One of my favourite two-player co-op games in recent years. Glen and I blasted through this. It has a feeling of Warriors, if you remember that film. Warriors come out to play. And you have to basically go and fight different gangs and take down their leader. Really good game. Mako Anomalies, which blatantly isn't called that at all. It's called Matto Anomalies, Walker. Come on, sort your life out. That's 90% off. I saw this price, I couldn't believe it. £3.59. It's got a bit of persona about it. It tells quite an interesting tale, and I enjoyed it a lot. And if I picked it up at 90% off, I'd enjoy it even more. Ember Knights, one of my favourite roguelites on Switch. It has 4-player co-op as well. They've just patched it again. It's got loads of new content. This is a great game. This is a great game at full price. But as I say, at 90% off, that's going to be a difficult one not to buy because I haven't seen that get close to that price. If you've got kids or you just want to play a more chill, kind of top-down, Zelda-inspired experience, try Sword of Ditto. That's 85% off, down to $2.24. It has 1 or 2-player co-op. You work around this island. There are dungeons there. It's decent. It's decent. It has flaws. We do have a full review if you want to check it out. But for that price, yes please. And then both of the Saints Row games are currently 80% off each. That takes them down to $3.99. I think this one's US only. I can't be sure. You'll have to check it. But at those prices, again, well worth it. Very funny. GTA clones with just, I guess if you took GTA and spliced it with The Boys, you'd end up with something quite a lot like this, I think. Yeah, funny games, ridiculous, slapping people in the face with a very large, can't say the word because, well, the channel gets shut down. So that's it for this week. I think that's quite a nice list of games. It's nice to be back after my holiday. It's nice to sit in this little room with the padded walls. I mean, it just makes me sound like a lunatic, doesn't it? And chat to who I feel like I'm talking to you when I do these, which is weird. I feel like you're listening like I'm talking to you as well, some of you, you know? You're like, oh, I'm just going to go see Mark. And your other half's like, what are you talking about? But you and I both know we're here together. So that's it. As I say, apologies about the website being a bit janky at the moment. If only you knew the amount of emails I've sent behind the scenes. That should be back up and running soon. But in the meantime, you can use PlayAsia to save yourself 5%. Links down below. And if not, just do what you want to do, really. What are you playing this weekend? Let me know. As always, a big thanks to our Patreons, our members, all of you that enjoy the content. And as always, for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers, guys. See ya!